this damn friend a neighborhood party.
Right on. Welcome to Thoughts Off the Stem. I'm Justin Barone, and today we're smoking the same thing as last time, I think. It was the end of it, so I had to turn it up higher. That was a hot one. Pineapple OG Shatter from Endgame. It's 77%. It is not a sativa at all. I mean, they might say it is, but for me, it doesn't act that way. I don't really know what it is. It doesn't really say. So we're smoking that in the Stoonin' glass to start off the show. And then we're going to smoke as the pre-roll Sativa by Thumbs Up. It is 1 gram, I believe. Yep, 1 gram sweet diesel. And the sweet diesel is... Where is it? Sweet diesel is 28.1%. I haven't tried it yet. I don't know what it tastes like. I don't know if it's good, but generally the Thumbs Up, if you don't know, you buy them in a pack. They're 1 grams. They're under $10. They're fucking great. That's not an ad for them. I realize as I say that. But they are really good. They're very popular because, again, 2 1 gram joints for the price of 1, essentially. So I hope you're having a good week. Thank you for joining me, Justin Barone. Yeah, I hope everything's going well for you. But I wanted to talk about today a conversation that I had. So I have been watching, I don't know if you know who Graham Hancock is, but essentially he's a reporter. And he's got a show on Netflix right now that's called Ancient Apocalypse. And the concept of the show is that he goes around to these places like archaeological places that have been, dug up in certain, like, to a certain extent, and artifacts have been found, temples, whatever. He does a lot of research into this. And basically his stance is that there seems to be more going on there than what meets the eye. And he takes a lot of flack from the archaeological community because some of his theories don't add up to what they have been saying is the case up until this point in terms of civilizations and humanity. And he has started to notice, at least throughout his research, he's been doing it, it's his whole life is this, essentially, right? He seems like a very knowledgeable guy. I've listened to him on Joe Rogan, and again, people have their opinions on everyone, so they've had their opinions on this guy, they have their opinions on Joe Rogan, but I find this stuff kind of fascinating. I've always been very intrigued by the idea of civilization. So Graham Hancock basically says that there's lost civilizations out there that the archaeological community should potentially be looking into based on modern research and updates in archaeological discovery. And basically that's kind of his stance. That's in a nutshell. So I'm probably not doing it justice, but that's his show is not the focus of this. The focus of this is that I have had conversations with people. I'm a pretty open-minded person. I like to think that I'm devil's advocate. I don't necessarily disbelieve something. I don't necessarily believe something. I just kind of take in the information. I'm interested, so I do the research based on things that I hear on podcasts, on whatever, and like TV, Netflix shows, whatever. So Graham Hancock has a Netflix show. Like I said, the concept of the show is that there's possibly lost civilizations out there because he sees a lot of links in between the different archaeological sites and discoveries of like written tablets and things that we believe now and have believed for a very long time may not be dated when they were dated. Like they may be older than that. So human civilization could potentially be much older than it actually is. Okay? And a lot of the archaeological community tries to call him out for this or slanders him or, whatever. Tries to discredit his... that hit is setting in. Tries to discredit his theories. So I was having a discussion with somebody one day about the fact that I thought this show was cool. I thought the concept was cool. I thought that what he was doing and what he was trying to present was worth thinking about. Because as we know, as, society moves along and we grow older as a species, things change. What we thought isn't necessarily the case because of new technology finding different answers than what we'd had before. Our upgrade in understanding is a little bit more in depth. There's obviously more people in the world, so there's more input into these discoveries. And in a changing time, as we get older, as we're humans, isn't that kind of the point? The point is that somebody notices something, they say something. Now, if you're the village idiot, obviously nobody listens to you, which kind of sucks, because sometimes the village idiot knows some shit, right? So, I'm not saying Graham Hancock is the village idiot. I'm just saying that I feel like anywhere you get information, it could potentially be worth listening to. Don't discredit it right away. So I brought this up one day in a group of people, and I basically just said, I really like this because I'm interested in Egypt, and I really like the idea of, old civilizations and how we got here and what they do. And obviously there's a big section of society that's like, how did we build those fucking pyramids? And that's kind of where I first learned about Graham Hancock, was him talking about how pyramids were built and how potentially it wasn't what we thought, that there was maybe some other input, and not necessarily from like aliens and shit like that, but maybe there were other civilizations that knew how to do things or used or got to a point where they used technology to build these mega structures. And at some point there was a major global cataclysm that essentially put them, into extinction. And so the next civilization would get some of that information and then try and build based on that, right? So I brought it up saying that I thought it was a very interesting way to go. And I've only watched a few episodes of the first season, but it's pretty fucking cool as far as I'm concerned. It seems like, he's a journalist, so like his whole thing is, oh, this seems interesting, I'll research it, right? And generally, if you're a quack, you notice right away that this person's like, oh, this person's like nuts. There's nothing there. But when he was looking at some of these sites, he had like scholars that were in the archaeological field or archaeology in general, and they were giving him some of this information because they had, gone through the site under an archaeologist's viewpoint. You know what I'm saying? So it to me gave up a lot of good information that we may have stopped just looking farther, or we may not have had the capacity to do so, or we may not have had the technology to do so. But it seems like with the technology now, there is some evidence to suggest that there is more to this than what we thought. And I brought this up to somebody, and I thought that they would really like it. Okay? Hold on, dog's barking. Sorry, the dog was barking. I had to pause for a minute. So I took a couple shots of the student glass. But basically, what I thought was interesting, or what I think about this whole situation, is that essentially you need people like that to bring up the idea or the possibility sometimes to say, hey, there might be more to this. Just because you're not a scholar doesn't mean that you can't have a good idea or notice something that a scholar, has missed. To me, it doesn't matter. Like, it just doesn't matter if you have a background in that or not. If you're a researcher, if you're a reporter or a journalist or even a book writer, the amount of research that you potentially have to do, because you don't want to look like a fucking idiot, right? The amount of research that you would have to do to be able to explain as well as he does why he thinks that there may be more to this than meets the eye is impressive. It's on par with any scholar that is, researching that field, as far as I'm concerned, in this case. So I just brought it to people's attention to say like, hey, isn't it cool that there's a possibility that this could happen? And again, me as a person, I always like the concept of possibilities, right? I like the idea of there being more possibilities to things than just what you see. Oh, burp. I'm drinking a beer. Cheers. I hope you're having a good Friday. But to me, it's kind of fascinating that a large chunk of the archaeological community is dead set on how wrong this guy is. But it seemed to me, in watching a lot of, like, I've seen a few podcasts with him on it. I've watched and read some of the things that, like, he puts on his website. And I've made the decision on my own to say, hey, this guy, I don't think this guy's a quack. I think he sort of sees things because he presents it, and then he sort of presents, like, I was told, oh, he doesn't have any evidence. Does he, though? Like, he doesn't, that's the whole point. Like, Columbus, when I don't know if this is true, but basically the story goes, Columbus sailed and found America. Or was it America? I don't even fucking know. I'm starting to get high. But essentially, explorers way back when didn't necessarily have evidence that something was there. They'd heard a story about something being over here, and maybe they'd find it. And in a lot of cases, while they were searching for the thing that they heard about, they found something else, right? So I don't understand how people can just disregard somebody for presenting what seems to be at least the start of an idea, okay? Because he's basically saying, hey, look, there's a few things that some of these newer archaeologists have shown me that have been, or newer to, like, public eye, I guess, have shown me that maybe need some further investigating. But then the established archaeological community is kind of going like, no, we can't do that. What we said is right. What we said is right now. Like, that's how it fucking works, and that's it. And to me, it's very surprising that people are like that. And it's even more surprising that presented in, like, a TV show, essentially. And I'm just saying, hey, it's interesting, it's fun. You can take it for what it's worth. I don't really care if you believe it or not. Because, like, I don't know if I believe it. I just think it's an interesting concept. And the fact that nobody's studying it is kind of silly to me. Shouldn't we constantly be open to the idea of we don't know how things are going or how things went? Like, I feel like the whole point of discovering where human life came from was to keep that open mind. And when I brought up watching this show, one of the people in the group had watched the show and viscerally hated it. Okay? And it was surprising to me because I'm like, man, this is like, I feel like this is right up your alley. It's all about possibility and, like, open-ended concepts of what may or may not have happened, right? I also like history, so I find it fascinating. You may not like history like that, but that person I know liked history, so I thought, man, they'll really get a kick out of this. And the visceral hatred for that show and Graham Hancock was fucking unfathomable. I was like, so, like, you watched what I think it was, I don't know if they watched the whole season or not, but they said they watched it and they hated it. And the main points were the fact that he's not a scholar, which, again, like I just said, like, are you kidding me? Like, does it really make a difference if you're a scholar? Like people have tripped over dinosaur bones, and they're just regular people, and then they went and checked out where the dinosaur bone was, right? So why is this guy that's a reporter, a journalist, a person of, like, respect within I think the journalistic the journalism side of life, okay? Fuck, I'm high. I shouldn't have taken those extra student glass hits, man. I'm fucking stoned. I don't know why, scholars would just, like, pass them off, because it seems like in some of the scenarios where I've heard them talking with archaeologists, they seem to have, like, similar, not necessarily, like, the same point, but, like, there's certain points where they kind of match up. And then there's other ones that just, like, refuse, like, deny everything he said and, like, just whatever. But then, if you're a human, okay, and if you're an open-minded human, when you're watching this show, it's still a show. I get that it's more like documentary style or whatever, but it's still a show, right? So you take it with a grain of salt. It's entertaining. It's on Netflix. It's entertainment. But this person and a couple other people online have had the same kind of reaction, where he's not, like I said, he's not in the field of archaeology. He's not educated like that. So who is he to tell anybody anything about anything? And the other part of that was the fact that, I guess, supposedly, I don't know if this is true, but his son works at Netflix, so they're saying like that's why he got the show. I don't buy into that, man, because he's had other documentaries like way back when that were equally as good, So I think he did it on his own, and I think he's worth listening to. I don't think he's a fucking idiot. Now, granted, I'm a stoner doing a podcast primarily under the influence of weed, and the idea of weed and watching the show is fucking fascinating, because when you smoke weed, you're like, what about this, bro? And then you watch that and you're like, oh my God, humans made pyramids on humans, dude. I want to go in it. Like that's where you go. So having that open mind and having that ability to say like, yeah, what if, kind of spawns the next jump in understanding in a lot of different subjects, but especially with where humans came from, right? Like, we thought so many different things for so long that just because he's now finding some potential evidence that there may be things that we didn't understand before, or we didn't see before, or we just didn't think could exist before, and now there's some evidence to suggest that like, oh, these things might be here. Like the fact that, so in the first episode they go down to, I think it's South America, or is it Indonesia? And they go to this one temple, and then as the episode goes along, they start to explain that like there is a possibility that this temple that we're looking at, this pyramid that we're looking at right now, is built on top of and around, like over, like Russian doll style, over top of a pre-existing pyramid, and then they make it whatever. So it would suggest to them that there was a civilization that lived, that built like way beyond what we believe is our timeline, may have built this, and then, like I said in the beginning, a catastrophic event happened and wiped out the most of the population. So you had small pockets of groups that sort of saw the same things, had to live through the same things, and then their ideology, even though the terminology was different, their ideology sort of seemed to be very similar, right? So, it's fascinating to me. Or wait, where was I going with that? Oh, so I was going to the point. What I was trying to say is that it's fascinating to watch that, right? And realize that, oh shit, we may just be building on top of ourselves every time there's a mass extinction. We may be like gathering or getting information from maybe a pocket of survivors that knew how to do these things, and they help civilizations advance again. Right? It sounds really corny when you say it that way, because I'm not uneducated, but I'm under the influence of marijuana. So take it for what well, don't listen to me say this. I'm just saying that, oh my God, I'm high. Okay, dudettes, how's your Friday? How's your weekend going? Hope you're having a good time. Fuck, I'm stoned. I just get so amped up. I love this shit. I love the concept that like we could have, I don't know what the time frames are, but like back in, Egypt, back in, I can't think of the term for it right now. I'm getting so stoned. There's a wave of high that is washing over me right now that is just something else. This is a hybrid leaning indica. And again, that was, what was it? Pineapple OG Shatter, 77% by Endgame. So this is what you get out of it. Now I'm all giggly because I'm drinking. But yeah, I just get excited at the fact that there could be all these possibilities to where humanity started, and how we developed, and how there could be lost technologies where you could do maybe, because I've always been under the idea. I've always had the idea that what if everything we thought wasn't the way we thought it was? Like, what if math isn't supposed to be called math? You know, like it's still numbers and addition and subtraction, but what if like we labeled things wrong? So it lends itself to the idea that there may have been other civilizations where there was a gap of informational transfer, right? Because of some kind of catastrophic event. And it just keeps like rebuilding itself till it gets to the point where it's amalgamated, but you also lose that information over time based on how everything sort of plays out. Dude, I am so stoned. This was like a really nice stony situation for me. I hope you're stoned. I hope you're having a good time. I seem to be having a lippy time. And when this person brought up the fact that they hated it like so much, the thing that surprises me is that people really like they put everything they have into what they hate and what they love. You know? So if you're even people that some people that say they have an open mind, they don't necessarily have an open mind, man. Cuz in this scenario, there's a few people that I talked to about this that have come from a background that is somewhat controlling or stifling or overseeing, right? And they've been trying to break out of those thought patterns and influences in their life. And as adults, they've been really trying to maintain a separation from that previous way of thinking that sort of that traps you, essentially. And so they're trying to be, more open-minded, more accepting, more this. They're realizing their place in the world kind of thing. But still, when there's something like this that has to do with, there's three things I notice. If it has to do with religion, if it has to do with humanity, like the beginning of humanity, or what's the other, like leadership changes, okay? Especially in Canada and the US. That's visceral shit, dude. So like if your brain has been taught something for your whole life, it takes a long time to make that switch and turn to more accepting, especially when the thoughts are not necessarily the best way. What am I trying to say? Why am I trying to sugarcoat it? Like, for example, in my opinion, I don't necessarily think that religion is wrong. Why would I think that? That's silly. It could. I don't know that everything happened, right? I think that they were meant to be stories of how to interact and operate as a society when a society at that time had no understanding of how to do that. So I think there was a lot of that, and I think that the stories are embellishments to sort of keep people controlled to a certain extent. Because if you think that there's going to be catastrophic floods and shit like that all the time, or that there's the potential for an apocalypse, and the coming of Christ and stuff, you're going to operate in a very different manner than somebody that thinks that like that none of that exists and you're just walking the earth to walk the earth, How can you believe anything without believing that there's different possibilities? Because like I know that it's ingrained in you when you're young, but like for me, I like irony. Okay, so whenever I'm in a situation, irony jumps out at me. When I'm watching or talking with somebody and we have this, back and forth, and they say something that like kind of contradicts what they may have said before, it immediately catches me. And it can be like anything, like a stupid little thing. And I'll just start laughing, and everybody's like, why are you laughing? It's because I find irony hilarious. I find it funny that we as people have this capability of belief and understanding and changing our minds and learning. I don't understand how anybody can believe in the idea of a person that goes to the clouds and then at some point is going to be reincarnated. I don't know how you can hold that belief and not take in the idea that maybe this happened instead. Because we're adaptable. We're all adaptable. And yes, like, obviously education level fucking matters in this. But smart people get really stuck on that one thing. Like, if you mention Trump, people lose their fucking minds. Okay? Like, you could just say, oh, I read Trump's book. And all of a sudden, you'll just hear, like, that guy's a fucking crazy person. He's a blah, 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 blah. And you're like, but I was just saying I read the book. Like, I didn't say which way. I didn't say whether or not I liked the guy or what. I just think that, like, he knows a few things, you know, that maybe I should try to learn. Like, you don't get to those places that he's at without doing that. But, like, you say that and people lose their shit. It's just like religion. You say, oh, I'm this religion and your religion sucks or whatever. And however you go back and forth. And the next thing you know, you're arguing over which guy walked on water better. Like, what the fuck? And you can't take on the concept that maybe somebody that investigates and researches things for a living could potentially find a new pathway to existence. And I'm not saying that's a religious thing. I'm just saying that people, to me, like, I grew up being taken to church every day, going to church. And then when I was like about 14, I remember, okay, I was in, was it 14? No. It was when I would have been 15 or 16 because it was in high school. We had to go to chapel and we had like a class on Friday. And I remember we're talking about the Bible. Now, I'm not saying I read the whole Bible or anything like that. It just always seemed to me that a lot of these stories were like stories, you know, and people take it to be like, this is what it is. Because, like, let's be honest. How do you turn water to wine? You can walk on water. You're walking on ice, dude. Like, what are we talking about here? Right? So, like, I think that these people in the Bible, like Jesus and all those people that made these big events happen, or supposedly, I think they were symbolistic of what you could do, you know, as a society, provided you have values, morals, and you operate in a certain way and have acceptance. But it's over the course of history, it's changed to this visceral fight between, no, my God is better, your God's not, or like, you know, evolution doesn't exist, that didn't happen, these things happen. Like, I don't understand how anybody can get stuck on one side or the other, right? So it's kind of the same when you're listening to people tell you about why they dislike somebody telling you a potentially new theory. Again, not every theory is good, but generally, if you give a person a chance to explain themselves and you really pay attention to what they're trying to say, you listen, you'll start to see a pattern. And you'll start to decide if that person is full of shit or if they're, you know, legitimate. And in the case of, like, most people that are on TV, you get debunked pretty quick too if you're, you know, if you're if you're on the internet at all. Like, people will go after you pretty viscerally. Luckily, they'll go after you on both sides, but a lot of people want to just, like, cut people down. And I think that in the reaction to this video, I think that was the fucking thing. Like, I think it was so against what the beliefs were that they may have held, that the irony in the situation was they couldn't see past the concept of what if, you know, because apparently there was no evidence. But I watched the same show. I saw some pretty decent evidence. Like, I saw some archaeologists basically, you know, speaking up and saying, hey, I think this could happen, and these are the studies that we've run and the tests that we've run when we were allowed at the sites to say that this could be possible and we should investigate it further. You know, I don't know. Open-mindedness is, like, my biggest thing. I never want to be, like, controlled by one way of thinking. It's just fucked up. Maybe that's partially why I smoke weed. Could you imagine thinking, oh yeah, let's smoke this sativa. It's a thumbs up indica sativa 1 gram pre-roll, sweet diesel, 28.1%. Thank you for sticking around this long as I ramble and get high and the dog barks. I really appreciate it. Oh, it's 1 gram total. They're half grams. Okay, so which one is which? Fucking feel good, safe. Oh, damn it. Sorry, I gotta read this thing. They have two different filters because they didn't. I thought it was 1 grams. So, thumbs up filter, white filter. So, thumbs up filters the sativa. Feel good, save the planet. That's right. Feel good, save the planet. Think about different concepts. There's, life's full of wonder still. And as we advance and technology comes along and, we can upgrade our systems, we can potentially find out more than what we thought before. And it's kind of funny to me that any kind of industry would be single-minded in thinking that, nope, all our research is done. That's what we know. We can't do any more. And we shouldn't do this. And I also get it from a perspective of, like, we have to preserve the sites. But they disregard the fact that there is potential for, a building up as opposed to a building out in terms of, those like pyramids and ancient archaeological sites. I don't know. That's why it's called ancient. We don't fucking know, man. And I tend to believe or be on the side of the fact that, yeah, there's probably gaps where, we think all of our ancestors and people that lived back then, that they were less educated, they didn't have as much technology and whatever, but there is some evidence to say that, no, there was probably more. They just can't figure it out yet. Because think about it. We would need the technology to figure out what is going on there, right? And it's so far outdated that we don't have the right technology, because I'm sure that they could have come up with a technology and way of telling you if it was, what it was. And that is lost somewhere in translation as humans, move forward and evolve and society evolves, right? So to be cut off to the idea is baffling to me. Like, I always go back to this. Okay, so we're smoking. Sorry, I'll start that in a second. So we're smoking the thumbs up. It's the sativa. Dude, this shit is sweet. It tastes sweet right off the bat. For me, thumbs up is hit and miss. Like, it's good, and then sometimes it's not. They're great for the value. So if you're going to pick up something, these are good to, like, save your money. But I find that when you get the 1 grams, like a full 1 gram, they roll them nice and everything. But sometimes they're harsh. And this one is not. It's actually very sweet. What's it called? Sweet diesel? Yeah, sweet diesel. It is. It's kind of got that gassy flavor. A little bit of a, not skunky smell, but like a, maybe more of a hashy smell. It's tasty. I don't normally like diesel. I don't know why. It just doesn't seem to do it for me. But whatever their cross is in this, which they don't say, whatever their cross is in this, it's pretty fucking good. I like it. That's like 3 puffs in, and I don't feel the high yet, but like, the mouth feels good. The mouthfeel is excellent. It's like a nice, thick, cigar-style inhale, like on the thicker side, or a stronger cigarette style, if you know what I'm talking about. It's still sweet. But normally when you get the 1 grams, by the time you get down to just under like a quarter of it left, that's when it starts to get a little bit harsh. I get that it also the strain matters, and they do a pretty good job with their strains. They rotate them. When they do these 2 1 grams, they rotate them. They're pretty good. So I guess the question is, wait, what kind of high is it? Is it a daytime high? You know what? The end game is fucking me up. That one's got me body buzzed. This one seems to be coming in right behind the eyes. Yeah, it's definitely coming in behind the eyes. It's an upper, for sure. It's uplifting. It's a nice smoke. I got kind of that, like, want to bounce caffeine rush, you know what I'm saying? Like, if I could play music, I'd be playing all the music right now. I'd probably be playing, what would I play? I'd play some Busta Rhymes. Yeah, I'd play some good shit. I'd play some 90s hip-hop. I pretty much stick to that. Maybe I would go into, like, you know, a little bit of funk. Maybe some blues. I like blues. You know what I really like? I like ZZ Ward. She's fucking good. She's got that bluesy, like, oh, sound. That's a really bad impression. That was me just being, oh. Yeah, this would be good for listening to music. This is a good listening to music joint. I wish it was a little bigger because I want to keep smoking it. So, thumbs up. Sweet Diesel, 1 gram. Would I buy it? Would I buy it again? Yes. And the verdict is, buy it again. Yeah, they're good, man. These are pretty tasty. It's shit like this that I like to smoke because it gets my mind racing. And then in terms of this whole concept or the idea that, you know, you should be open-minded as a human to different concepts of how you can, how we came about. I'm not saying one is right or wrong because you never know until the end. You won't know if evolution was the thing, if religion's the thing until the end comes. And I don't know how I feel about that, but it is what it is. So you can't really discount any of it. Do I think there's a guy in the clouds? I don't know. I don't think so. That seems highly unlikely. Do I think that science and like technology are the thing? That seems more likely to me. But I could be fucking wrong. People that think otherwise, you know, like, it doesn't matter what it is. You could be totally wrong. Maybe you don't find out what all this stuff is until you get to the next level. So you have to kind of, you know, keep an open mind and not try to be stuck on one system of belief. Because it baffles me that anybody could think one dude built a raft big enough to take every animal in the world, which couldn't get to the raft. Like, did he go around picking it up? You were going to put, okay, you're putting all of the animals, it's not a raft, a boat, on a boat that's the size of a city that he built in a very short amount of time, okay? And yes, I know the story, but really, what have you seen in your lifetime that would make you think that one man and his child, okay, could build a boat that could house every single animal, his family, and maybe like a couple others on the planet. And on top of that, have all of those fucking things on your boat without any of them, without a massacre. I don't know, dude. Seems pretty far-fetched. And if you can believe that, I feel like you should believe that there is a lot of different possibilities out there. Because that is fantastical. Like, I'm not trying to shit on it by saying like it's a bad thing to believe. I'm just saying that with what we know and how the world operates, that should be, you know, kind of like a stepping stone for hope and finding out new information. Because to me, that is a baffling concept. I guess I just wish that people just found, like, anything is possible. And I feel like not enough people think that anything is possible. Like, to be married to one idea or one concept or one way of thinking is seemingly in most cases not very beneficial. You have to be able to adapt, and in order to adapt, you have to be open-minded, right? So your beliefs have to change. Your opinions have to change. Because if you don't, you're stuck in one way. And that way doesn't necessarily serve you as times change. So as times change, you have to be able to be adaptable mentally. Adaptable. Yeah, adaptable mentally. I'm high as fuck, dude. So I don't know why people get so, like, to the core, soul-crushingly mad at people that they don't necessarily see eye to eye with. Because it's not like, I don't know, I don't feel like it's spreading any disinformation. It's just a hypothesis. Like, you're just like, hey, here's the theory. Maybe this is possible. And if you investigate it, because he seems to know as much as archaeologists know. So if you know, yeah, if he seems to understand it and he's presenting it in a way that's like, hey, what about this? I don't know why you wouldn't listen to him, or at least indulge the idea that it's a possibility. Because, like, none of us can say where the fuck we came from. For sure. You know? That's what I think. Those are my thoughts off the step for this week. Thank you for joining me, Justin Barone. I'm high as fuck. I hope you are too. I hope you enjoyed the sesh. I hope you come back next week on Spotify, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, iTunes, YouTube, Good Pods, Podchaser, Pandora, Podbean. Where else? There's other places. Everywhere. If you want all the links, just go to tots420.com. And they're there. Fuck, I'm high. I hope you guys enjoyed the sesh. Yeah. And I hope you come back next time. And until next time, keep your lids low, baby. This shit's good. Yeah, tasty.
Lots of this stem from the neighborhood party.
Right on.